And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. So hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share, because trust me when I tell you, the insanity, the stupidity, it is not stopping. All right, this afternoon, let me just give you the best example. Just this afternoon, Karoline Leavitt, one of my favorite characters, literally, to come out of this administration, she gave a press conference, and per usual, she's acting as bullshit Barbie. The president of El Salvador is set to come to the United States to meet with Trump, and a reporter then goes and asks if they will be bringing Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia literally back to the United States after the Supreme Court sided with him last night. Play the clip.
Real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court. I would defer you to that for any updates. But as you mentioned, President Bukele will be here at the White House on Monday to talk about the cooperation that is at an all-time high. And we very much appreciate President Bukele and El Salvador's cooperation and the repatriation of El Salvadorian gang members who the previous administration allowed to infiltrate our country. Sure.
Thank you very much, Carol.
Facilitate, not effectuate. So let me just break this down real fast. What happened is the lower court said that the U.S. must bring him back. Supreme Court says that they need to do everything in their power to do it. Facilitate versus effectuate. Let me be very clear. Remember, Kristi Noem showed up to that same prison while they stripped these guys down to their underwear so you could see all the tattoos. And she walked through that. So why not send her back there with her $60,000 gold Rolex Daytona on her wrist and turn around and say to the warden, I need this guy Garcia back. Can you bring him to me right now? I promise you, he would be turned over to her custody. They could be on an airplane and back in America before tomorrow morning. Now, Karoline also spoke about the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Play that clip.
Are ongoing. I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage, and the president is determined to see this through.
Somehow I want to remind you, my wonderful followers here, do you remember that Trump was supposedly going to be able to bring this thing to a head in 24 hours? In fact, he may even have been able to do it before taking office, post the win. You remember everything was in 24 hours? He was stopping the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Hamas-Israel conflict, returning of the hostages, all within 24 hours. Seems like 24 hours happened a little while ago, right? She also goes on and to literally throw in a threat now, on top of everything, against Iran. Play that clip.
Security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay, and that's how the president feels. He feels very strongly about it. And can you...
Once again, thought he was able to take care of this within 24 hours too. Now, you may have heard that this morning Trump went for a examination, the presidential examination. So a reporter, obviously right-wing, remarked that Trump is looking healthier than ever before. Play the clip.
The president's physician will do that. I spoke with him this morning.
Karoline, sure. Will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before. Healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room could agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see, on a near daily basis here. And in that vein, thank God it's Friday. It's been a very long and busy week here at the White House. We will see you all on Monday, and we will release the results of that report as soon as we can. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Unbelievable, right? Now you got the journalist kissing the guy's ass. You know, the briefing, it also covered the recent tariff turmoil. And of course, sweet Karoline compliments Trump on being the only president who would take on this task. No, seriously. He's the only one who would take on this task. Maybe there's a reason why others didn't. Play the clip.
Massive undertaking, there's no doubt about it. We take it very seriously. The president is determined to renegotiate global trade on behalf of American workers. And again, you've seen people on both sides of the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task. And
what the hell is she talking about? I mean, going back to Smoot-Hawley, which pushed us into the Depression. Maybe there's a reason that people don't. Oh, yeah, the same reason that 27 out of 29 top economists in America said that it was going to cause, oh, yeah, a recession, increased inflation, a global economic catastrophe. Guess what it's doing? Exactly that. Meanwhile, a reporter then goes and asks about Trump being optimistic about making a deal with China. Karoline? Oh, sweet Karoline had a one-word response. Play that clip.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal if they're not talking? Where's that optimism come from?
He's optimistic.
Hey, why optimistic? You know, there is a big difference between the term optimistic and hopeful. He's optimistic. You really want to be optimistic with fighting with the second largest economy, the actual country that produces more than 70% of all of the goods consumed by Americans? Seriously, this is your idea? I'm optimistic that they'll call. No, they won't. In fact, what did they do? They hit us with retaliatory tariffs. Reporter then goes on and asks that if Trump is so optimistic, why doesn't he just call China up himself? Play that clip.
Sure. Thanks, Caroline. President Trump has said China wants to make a deal on tariffs. The president says he has a great relationship with Chinese President Xi. He's willing to speak with him directly. Why doesn't the president just pick up the phone and get this ball going?
All of the things the president just said are true. The president, as I said from the podium just a few days ago when I was up here, would be gracious if China intends to make a deal with the United States. If China continues to retaliate, it's not good for China. The United States of America is the strongest, best economy in the world, as evidenced by the more than 75 countries who have called the administration immediately to cut good deals. So the president wants to do what's right for the American people. He wants to see fair trade practices around the globe, and that's his intention and his goal.
So is he waiting for China to make the first move here?
I'm not going to comment on communications that are happening or may not be happening, or either way. We'll leave it to our national security team to get these discussions underway. And as always, in the effort of transparency, we will provide updates moving forward. But the president has made it very clear he's open to a deal with China.
Why is he
She's now saying 75 countries have already reached out to the president. You know, if this negotiation thing was as real as bullshit Barbie is spewing from the podium, you think maybe the smart move would be not to go to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend to win another golf course championship that he owns? You think maybe the smart move would be to stay in D.C., man the phones? You know, this isn't a Monday to Friday job. This isn't a 9 to 5 job. And when you create this global economic chaos, shouldn't you stick around? Shouldn't the entire team be sticking around? Or are you going to use the winter White House? Now it's, I guess, the spring White House. Soon it'll be the summer White House as a place for these phone calls to be made. Maybe you should just be around the White House to show, right, that you really do want to create something instead of saying, yeah, hey, Gigi, yeah, do me a favor. Can you hold for about a half second? I'm just chipping. I'm about 100 yards out from the pin and I'm perfectly straight. Really? Meanwhile, Karoline then talks about Scott Bessent. Oh, yeah, Scott, keeping a close eye on the bond market. Play that clip.
About tariffs. There have been big swings this week in the Treasury bond yields. There's a theory that it might be because of China dumping be used as leverage, driving up costs for U.S. loans like mortgages. Does the White House have evidence that this is in fact a result of Chinese dumping? And if so, is there a message on that?
Not to my knowledge, but I would check in with the Treasury Department on that. I can tell you, I know our Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, is keeping a very close eye on the bond market. He spoke about it at the White House this week, and I know he's keeping his eyes on it day to day. Ed.
Thanks, Dave.
Think about it week by week or last week or at the beginning of the week. It's very different. The bond market moves by the second, not even by the minute or by the hour. It moves by the second. So whatever he said 2 days ago, it's irrelevant. It's past, it's over, it's done. It moves by the second. And if China is out there dumping the bonds, as Japan did, yeah, it's going to create a real problem for Americans. And finally, I want to show you a clip of Karoline talking about how optimistic Americans are at the moment. No, seriously. She literally is up there on the podium and she's telling Americans that we are all optimistic at this very moment for what Trump and his enablers are doing. Play the clip.
And out of respect for our good friend Peter. Jeff.
Why is American consumer confidence so low?
Look, I think there's a great optimism in this economy, great optimism for the American people, a lot of reason for people to feel optimistic. The president is, as I just said, trying to renegotiate the global trade agenda that has ripped off the American people for far too long. As he said, this is going to be a period of transition. He wants consumers to trust in him, and they should trust in him. Look at what he did in his first term. And I just want to reiterate all of the reasons to be confident since you asked, Jeff. For those watching at home, yesterday, the CPI report, inflation declined massively. Consumer prices are dropping for the first time in years. Energy prices are down. In fact, oil prices are down 20% since this president took office. Wholesale prices fell again. There have been trillions of dollars in investments into this country. Every day, the president is signing executive orders to cut regulation, especially when it comes to Environmental Protection Agency, our energy industry. That's going to unleash the economic boom in this country that we saw in the president's first term. So trust in President Trump. He knows what he's doing. This is a proven economic formula.
What is he asking?
Let me be very clear. That's not an answer to the question that was asked. The Consumer Confidence Report came out today, and Trump is now at the lowest, I believe, in any president in at least modern memory. Dropped like 11 points. It is the lowest. And when he asks why, are you asking Americans to be optimistic? Why should Americans? How could you claim Americans are optimistic when consumer confidence is shown to be the exact opposite? This, my friends, is the problem. This is why we must stay vigilant. We must stay informed, because the misinformation, the disinformation, the malinformation, the deflection by this team is so extraordinary that we need to be a community that shares truth. And as always, thanks for listening. Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. I mean, we're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.